Hey everybody, welcome back to A Matter of Life and Maiden, the podcast of the Beast. I am Joe Labriola, and I am flying solo today with the podcast. No hate or animosity or anything between Matt and I. It's just plans for us to try to get this thing back up and running and get it off the ground for the past 2+ years has just not panned out. And I have decided to kind of just record my opinions and continue it because I think 2.5, 3 years is just too long to wait to record a new episode. And I would like to get back into doing this and recording more for this podcast. And as you have seen by the title and the artwork for this episode, it's going to be all about the new album Senjutsu. So just a little backstory. The album came out on September 3rd, 2021. It was recorded in early 2019 at Celts Studios in Paris, where they recorded the Book of Souls album, the one prior to this, and all the way back in 2000, the Brave New World album. So they like the studio. It looks like it's becoming the second most used studio since Compass Point, which they recorded a lot of the 80s stuff in. The 80s stuff being Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, those records, and they went back to that for the Final Frontier as well. This is the second longest Iron Maiden album in existence after the Book of Souls. It's 81 minutes and 53 seconds. It is a double album. It could have not been a double album if a minute or so was trimmed off there, but regardless, I appreciate the band's creativity and trying to convey that, epicness of making a double album, which they did with Book of Souls. It worked on that, and it worked on this one too, I must say. So, without further ado, let's dive into this record. I don't know where to begin. The first track, Senjutsu, which is loosely translated from the Japanese as tactics and strategy. I've also read somewhere that it can mean spirit and will. So think of martial arts and like the Bushido Code and the samurai with ki and chi and all those things. An expression of energy, an exertion of energy, that kind of thing as well. Planning for battle, etc., etc. But the song itself, more along the lines of, an army or soldiers defending a wall. And in the archive somewhere, it's funny because on an episode that Matt and I recorded years ago that was never released, which I hope he has somewhere, hopefully he didn't lose it, it's in the archives, I had actually said, Matt and I were sitting there talking, and it was like, what are they going to do next? They did the Mayan stuff, what are they going to do? And I said, it would be cool if Steve did something with the Great Wall of China. Now, granted, this isn't the Great Wall of China per se, but it talks about a giant wall, and it talks about people defending it, so it's kind of, and it's in the vein of Asian history, with a samurai Eddie on the sleeve, right? And Senjutsu. I'm not saying that the Japanese people and Chinese people are the same. I know their cultures are, distinctly different, but there is a lot of commonality there, so I thought it was really cool. But as far as the track's concerned, Nico's drums right off the bat, I mean, they're just heavy, pounding, grinding. They really carry the whole song. It's kind of a slow burn, but it's amazing when Bruce sings the chorus parts with the arrows falling and Dark Oblivion. Dark Oblivion. I mean, it's unbelievable. One of the greatest opening tracks, in my opinion, since Wicker Man, If Eternity Should Fail. And I think it's slightly better than If Eternity Should Fail. Just an epic rocker. This one was by Adrian and Steve with the writing credits. The solos are amazing again. They're phenomenal. Can't get enough of it. They're playing it now on the Legacy of the Beast Tour 2022, along with the next two songs that we're going to talk about, Strategio and Writing on the Wall. And with Legacy of the Beast, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but Matt and I saw 2 shows of Legacy of the Beast in 2019. One in Bristow, Virginia, near D.C. We were in the pit. And one in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the PPG Paints Arena in 2019. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years. But on the horizon for us, there is hope. The potential for a 2022 show in Washington, D.C. again to see the Legacy show. So down the line, I will at least be discussing the 2019 shows, if not all 3 Legacy shows 2 that I saw and 1 that I will potentially see. So looking forward to that. But again, Senjutsu, phenomenal from beginning to end, top to bottom, super heavy, really crunchy. Is it the best title track they've ever done? I can't say that, but it is a very strong one. Great opener, sets the tone for the album. Soldiers fighting, defending a wall, and then it segues perfectly into Stratego, which was the second single off of this album after Writing on the Wall. Stratego is a fucking amazing song. It's a really short rocker. It's only about 5 minutes long, I think 4:59, but it is kick ass. I mean, Ocean is Black, the Devil's track. I mean, just the lyrics. Looking beyond beneath the sea, eye of the storms here again. Been there before you were ever born. I mean, it's phenomenal. The lyrics are amazing. The guitar solo is amazing. The rhythm's amazing. This song is much more in line with the Japanese theme here, I believe. It kind of resembles that more than Senjutsu, even though they both do. Lyrics are just phenomenal. It's a really quick, short rocker. They did a music video for it on their YouTube channel, which is so kick-ass. It's a throwback to like the Rankin Bass animation and like Ralph Bakshi stuff. It totally destroys. I love it. I like it better than the Writing on the Wall video. So definitely check that out if you get a chance. Amazing solos. Yannick Gears and Steve on this one. Yan has been writing killer shit since the reunion, and he doesn't let up with this one. So another home run by those guys. Writing on the Wall. I remember when I first heard this, I was kind of let down. I was like, man, this album's supposed to be about Japanese mythology. And here they have this kind of song, have you seen the writing on the wall? Have you seen the writing? You know, have you seen the Riders on the Storm? I was like, whatever. And then it grew on me and grew on me and grew on me the more I listened to it. Now it's one of my favorite tracks on the record. It has this really different feel to it, a very hard rock, 1970s proggy kind of rock feel to it, kind of a little bit. You can see with like Adrian's riff writing in the beginning riff, but it grows and gets stronger and more progressive. It's Maiden. There's no doubt about it. It's different, but it feels like a Maiden song with a little splash of prog. And I want to hit this home again for everybody who's dissing the new album, saying, oh, it's not good, it's not great. What have they done? What's happened to Iron Maiden? Well, the reality is, if you go back and listen to the Somewhere in Time podcast episode, since then, they've just become a progressive band. You can see what it looks like when Maiden stripped themselves back down to bare bones like they did in the 1990s with albums like No Prayer for the Dying and Fear of the Dark. You know, you had Bruce Dickinson and you churned out what I believe to be the two worst albums of their entire catalog. Most people, you know, fault Blaze for being the worst singer in the band and being on the worst albums of the band's career, but I think Virtual Eleven and X Factor are better than No Prayer for the Dying and Fear of the Dark. That's what happens when you strip down the metal music to the bare bones and you're left with no ideas. There has to be somewhere to go, somewhere to transcend, and that's what they've been doing since the reunion. It's been amazing, and it's worked flawlessly. They haven't had total successes, but this album, as we're going to see as we keep moving forward here, in my opinion, is a very strong album, one of the best since the reunion. Writing on the Wall is no exception to that, with that difference in the riff writing, the difference in, you know, the way the song carries itself. And Adrian solo in this, again, taking it back to Somewhere in Time, he just rips on this. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal song. Even the chorus, like I said, when I first got into it, I was more upset of the fact it wasn't linked to Japanese mythology or the cover, but then listening to it, you're like, who cares? It still hits home. It touches the point. You know, all cultures believed in the end times and all those things, in the Book of Daniel and all that stuff, and some kind of Armageddon or some kind of end of the world. You know, in the Christian faith, it's the Book of Daniel, it's Revelation. So, very, very pleased with the song after listening to it now. It's grown on me a lot, and I think it's phenomenal. Now, the fourth track of the song, Lost in a Lost World. When I first listened to this, I loved it from day one. You know, the first moment, the beginning with Bruce, just the whispered lines. Oh, that what it seems to be on the outside. I mean, so good. All that what appears to be is a show, show, show. And they put a little echo on his voice. Now that's me emulating him. I'm not using any clips here. That's just me. But then the way the song carries on and just grows and builds with the different harmonies and melodies and everything. If the progress wasn't enough on Writing on the Wall, Lost in a Lost World just, I mean, hits it home. I mean, it's a super progressive track. It's just, it reminded me, like I said at the beginning, of something Pink Floyd would do, like with the whispering and the choruses. But then it builds and builds and builds and builds, and then just kind of softens at the end and goes really quiet. But it's about, Native Americans, I believe. Another kind of touchdown from Steve. Really, really powerful song, and I love it to death. I think it's amazing. And this is a Steve-only track. He was the only one who contributed to this one. He has 4 writing credits solo on this record. This is the first one. But it's his 4 writing credits on this are amazing. He is a lyrical and musical genius. Lost in a Lost World is phenomenal. If you like songs that build, if you like songs that are dynamic, this is for you. This album is for you. After that, we get into a very much more simplistic but very good song, Days of Future Past, Short Rocker by Adrian Smith and Bruce Dickinson. These guys are the 3 amigos of writing. We say this all the time. It's usually Steve Harris, Bruce Dickinson, and Adrian. And again, a nice pace short rocker. It's almost like the death or glory of this album. So if you like Death or Glory from Book of Souls, you'll probably like this one. But it's more about time. It's about wandering the world, living forever like this god or this person who can't die, and he loses everybody. The one line is, a king without a queen, to die forevermore. I mean, it's like, you can't die. And I like the little ding, 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 like the riff. It's so cool. It's clangy. It's an awesome short rocker by Adrian. His solo is awesome too. Bruce's vocals sound amazing on the entire album all the way through. Everybody kills it. It's legendary. Now, we come to the last song on disc 1, The Time Machine, which is a Yannick and Steve song. Or Yannick, excuse me. Yannick and Steve song. It's good. It's grown on me since I've been listening to the album now for over a year, for almost a year. But it's still not one of my favorites on the record. I think it's different. It's very progressive in one way, but this might be the one song on the album that I think they could have trimmed down a little bit. It's about 7 minutes and 9 seconds. It's great to listen to. It's unique. There is some really cool stuff in it, but you can hear a little bit of recycled riffs from the Book of Souls song itself. Not that they rip themselves off or anything. Like, it's not that bad. Bands do that a lot. Maiden is guilty of it too, but it's just one song that I thought would be a little bit more epic for the title. It's almost like when we talked about the Longest Day song from the A Matter of Life and Death episode, and how you are so anticipating this World War II epic, right? And then it just it starts off really good, and then it kind of just it's not that it crashes and burns, but it just levels out. There's not anything too epic about it. Like I said, it's a good song, but I just wanted more. I don't think it grows enough, or is progressive enough, or is as different enough as I would have liked it to have been. But all in all, the end of disc 1 is really good. Disc 1 is a great disc, but I'm gonna say this: whereas Book of Souls, disc 1 was the better disc, and disc 2 was the lesser. This is a better balance, but I think disc 2 is superior in a few ways. Darkest Hour, the first song on the album, about Winston Churchill and his decisions in World War II, being the prime minister and all that stuff that he had to suffer through, and his criticisms. But that's a Smith and Dickinson song as well. I love it. I think it's really good. It's around 7.5 minutes, 7 minutes 20 seconds, something like that. But Adrian's solo in it is fantastic. It's a very light song compared to the rest of the album. The rest of the album is very heavy and very grindy, much like A Matter of Life and Death was. I mean, it's a very strong, heavy, forthright, powerful album. Darkest Hour is not very strong and heavy. It's more melodic. It's more softer sounding, more ambient than the rest of the album. But still, nevertheless, a great song, great solo. But it's not what makes the second disc the best. The next three songs that we're going to talk about are some of the greatest songs Maiden has ever done, and they're all penned by Steve Harris himself. The first one is Death of the Celts. Wow. I know a lot of people critiqued this one when it first came out. I saw people saying it was like, oh, it's basically just Klansman Part 2. It's just a ripoff of the Klansman. And I beg to differ. I mean, I think it's just a completely unique song on its own. It almost has like an Irish jig feel to it, like in a good way, like in a heavy metal way. The lyrics are phenomenal. It's almost like you're sitting in an Irish pub and like you're talking to Bruce and he's telling you this Irish story and this tale. It's almost like Rime of the Ancient Mariner, like that same kind of vibe that like somebody is telling you a story. It's incredible. And there are a couple moments on these last couple songs that have that story-like quality to them. This is amazing. The guitar solos are fantastic. The different melodic changes are amazing. I can't sit here and say enough about these last three songs. They are like cream of the crop Maiden. I mean, they're like I said, some of the best they've ever done ever. Listen to Death of the Celts. It's phenomenal. There's so many changes. I mean, there's like a verse, there's a pre-chorus, there's a breakdown, there's a post-chorus, there's a million different things. And that's the sound of thunder that you're hearing outside, if you can hear that. Rain is going to be coming around here. But it's phenomenal. Give it a listen. The next one, my favorite song on the album, The Parchment. Another lone Steve Penn song. It's about 12 minutes 39 seconds, 12 minutes 40 seconds. It's just amazing. There are so many guitar solos on this song. I think it's the most guitar solos in any Maiden song ever. There's literally like maybe 3.5, 4 minutes of just soloing with a little bit of like, background tracking or like melodic playing. It's so good. The bass intro is awesome. It's kind of reminiscent a little bit of Red and Black, Blood in the World's Hands, kind of a mixture of those. But my favorite part of the song is when it gets to right around the 7-minute mark and Bruce just starts singing, "In a tempest never shaken, edge of doom is not mistaken, countenance is not a sin, gallant king we bow to him, fiercest wolf with a leopard skin," and it just keeps going for like 2.5, 3 minutes. The guitars come in and plays din, 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 like underneath it. It is one of my favorite Maiden songs of all time now. I mean, it's just so good. I've listened to that song alone like 50 times. It is one of the greatest Maiden songs ever, in my opinion. It's up there with like Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Red and the Black and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son and Alexander the Great and To Tame the Land and all that stuff. I mean, it's one of the greatest Maiden epics ever. I love the song. I can't even sit here. I mean, I could talk about every little lyric and analyze it all. It's just so good. It's about the Parthians and this kind of skin they have. It's a parchment. It must be like some kind of magical piece that people were after, and it's toppled empires and destroyed people, and people were waiting for a prophecy. It's just it's the entire band's discography thrown into one song about their epics. I mean, in a great way. It's phenomenal. It's the classic Maiden epic formula from start to finish, and it's the best song on the album, in my opinion. Give it a listen. And the last song, Hell on Earth. Wow. They pull a little Seventh Son here with Hell on Earth and the opening track, Senjutsu. There's a line in Senjutsu that says, "Dance on the graves who bled for us." But Dance on the graves who bled for us is in both Senjutsu, the song, and in Hell on Earth. But that's my favorite part of Hell on Earth, the song. You dance on the graves who bled for us. Bruce is like almost whispering. He's like, "Dance on the graves who bled for us. Do you think that they'll come for us? Knowledge and virtue taken by love. Live off the lives of those who you trust. You think that you have all the answers for all. In your arrogant way, only one way to fall. Burning a lamp that is fire in your hands. Taking you further from these lands." Then he just lets loose and he's like, "Love in anger. Life in danger. It's so good. I mean, it's so good. Like the last minute of the song just like explode. It's like this build up. Like if you've ever been to a Maiden show and they play Rhyme or Seventh Son or like what they're doing with Legacy with Sign of the Cross and the fireworks go off, this would be where the fireworks would go off. Like the life and day. I mean, it would be phenomenal. Um, yeah, I I don't have really much else to say about the songs as a whole. Besides listen to the album, listen to the songs themselves, listen to the album as a whole. It was such a joy to listen to this record from start to finish and to have it come out and then not wait until they toured this year and release it this year instead of last year. It was great. So privileged to be a Maiden fan right now. I heard too, and this is just a rumor, but watching some videos recently that they're thinking about, because Bruce has said like several tours now, we'll see you somewhere in time. We'll see you somewhere on tour, like joking. And that's the only 80s album from the Bruce era that they haven't did a history tour with. So my thoughts are they're going to combine Senjutsu and Somewhere in Time next year in 2023, like they did in 2007 when they did A Matter of the Beast tour, when they combined A Matter of Life and Death with Number of the Beast, because it was the 25th anniversary of Number of the Beast. We'll see. I'm excited for it. It would be a hell of a show. I mean, and they have the songs on this record to do that with Time Machine and Days of Future Past. They're linked like directly. They talk about time. So if they do like an alternating, changing stage set like they're doing with Legacy, they could just switch from the Senjutsu realm right into the Caught Somewhere in Time realm instantly, or vice versa, or whatever, and it'd be epic. So I hope it's true. But going through the album here, listenability-wise, we talk about this all the time. Listenability. If I'm looking at the tracks here, it's a 10 out of 10. I don't skip any songs at all. Even though I said the Time Machine might be like a low point for me because I don't think it was as epic, it's still good and catchy to listen to. It's not bad. So I listened to it. Yeah, listenability is perfect 10. I mean, some of the songs just segue perfectly together. I'll say this, the first three, like Senjutsu, Stratego, and The Writing on the Wall, all really just flow perfectly. And then you kind of get surprised when Lost in a Lost World comes up. You're like, whoa, what's this? This is different, and it's in a good way. Then after that, it's a really short rocker with Days of Future Past to get you back in the groove. Then you get Time Machine, which is kind of a little slower way to end the album, which, it's like I said, it's not amazing, but it's good. It suffices, it's strong. But then when you get to the second half of the album, the second disc, the last four songs, Darkest Hour was a great choice for the opener for this because it's kind of slow burn, nice and quiet, and then you get hit with like three steamrollers. I mean, it's Death of the Celts right into the Parchment, right into Hell on Earth. Just some of the best closing tracks on any Maiden record. For me, it goes back to A Matter of Life and Death with that kind of like amazing stack of closers. With A Matter of Life and Death, you have, the last three songs on the album are For the Greater Good of God, The Lord of Light, and The Legacy. I mean, and before that's the reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. I mean, it's that fucking good. Like, it's really that good. And, yeah, I'm going to say something about that later, to comparing it to that record. But as far as artwork is concerned, the next category, it's phenomenal. I mean, everything they've done, really, since A Matter of Life and Death forward has been utterly magnificent in terms of artwork. The sleeves for all their records, the single covers, everything, the stage sets, the production, really amped up since A Matter of Life and Death, and like around A Matter of Life and Death and Somewhere Back in Time, that tour, they really amped up everything. But the album sleeve, much like Book of Souls, is just a black background with Samurai Eddie on the front. Again, they use Mark Wilkinson, the same guy who did the cover illustration for Book of Souls. He also did Nostradamus from Priest, like in 2008, a while ago. Great art, but if you look on the inside, that's where it really shines. Like the big spread of Samurai Eddie and like this battlefield with all these dead like bodies laying around. He has a sword and his katana, and then his smaller blade unsheathed with blood dripping from them. Kind of has like a trooper feel to the cover, which is awesome because it's the full art cover. There's all these like Japanese temples and daimos and stuff in the background. There's flags everywhere. It's a beautiful piece of art. It's fantastic. Some of the other art that supplements it, there's like snakes with a Japanese symbol around it. There's this just helmet with Eddie's face in it that's all decorative, like a samurai helmet. It's absolutely gorgeous. That's the Stratego single. It's sort of like an all red background. It says Stratego and like this calligraphy written handwriting, like the Japanese would write. It's unbelievable. Writing on the Wall as a single cover is pretty cool. It's a bunch of these like cloaked riders on motorcycles, kind of like a futuristic version of the Nazgul from Lord of the Rings. Cool cover though, in the grand scheme of things. But if you're looking at like single covers aside, Stratego and Writing on the Wall aside, the album art itself is absolutely stunning and beautiful. And Samurai Eddie with a bow and arrow, and him shooting arrows, and it's so beautiful. The art is 10 out of 10. So that brings me to the ranking of the album, right? Which it's hard for me not to give it a perfect 10. I mean, it's just that good. When it came out, I had some doubts because, like I said, Writing on the Wall didn't really grab me at first. Then I heard Stratego, and I was like, ooh, shit, this is good. And then Writing on the Wall grew on me later. And then the rest of the album just made up for it. And I've said this, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. They really have a formula that works, and for me, that's the 10-song paradigm. That's when they do 10 songs that they churn out. I think if Book of Souls would have had one less song, if they would have taken off Man of Sorrows, it would have been a lot higher. I think I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Same thing with Dance of Death. There's 11 songs on that. Take out Age of Innocence, or take out New Frontier, Gates Tomorrow, one of those three, and you have a better record. But I get it, it's all experimentation. But this record, harkening back to A Matter of Life and Death, which, in my opinion, is a perfect 10. I think this band, Iron Maiden, has made 3 perfect 10 albums in their entire trajectory as a band, since their inception in 1975, since their first record in 1980 up to the present. And those 3 perfect 10 albums are Power Slave, A Matter of Life and Death, and now Senjutsu. A perfect 10. And the reason I say that is because, not only because of the artwork, not only because of the listenability, but of the epicness of the songs, the feeling you get when you listen to them. And it is partially the artwork and the listenability. When I put on Book of Souls, I love it. The first disc is incredible. And then you put in disc 2 and you're like, yes, Death or Glory. Yes, Shadows of the Valley. And then you hit that lull when you get Tears of a Clown and Man of Sorrows. Like it takes a little chunk out of the armor, puts a couple chips in there, and that perfectly pristine, plate armor with those 2 songs. Whereas this, I can't say anything about any song putting a chip in the armor. I know I criticized Time Machine a little bit, but it's not enough to detriment the rest of the songs, and it's not a bad song in itself. So, yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. And if I can remember going back, if I look at the reunion, I think I gave Brave New World a 9.4, because there really isn't, it lacks an epic of its own. Every song is amazing, but it lacks a true epic, hence the 9.4. Dance of Death I gave an 8.5, again, because I think there are a couple songs on there that are just, they missed the mark. Those 3 I mentioned earlier, New Frontier, Gates Tomorrow, and Age of Innocence. And the artwork is horrible, worst art they've ever done. But I give it an 8.5 because I like the music. I like Passion Devil. I like Journeyman. I like Dance of Death. Matter of Life and Death, 10. Artwork is amazing. Listenability is amazing. Same thing with this album. I can listen to it from beginning to end, from Different World all the way to Legacy without skipping a song because I love it that much. It's that good. Final Frontier, I gave that an 8.5. Again, the album is very top-heavy. The listenability is just not there. You don't really get a really long, strong, powerful epic until you get to Isle of Avalon. And then the album takes off from there. You get Starblind. You get Talisman. You get The Man Who Be King. And you get When the Wild Wind Blows. Before that, you have like a bunch of shorter songs, short rockers besides the title track, which is one of the weaker title tracks. And then Book of Souls, as I said already, couple songs take the chunk out of the armor. But yeah, give Senjutsu a listen. It is incredible. It is a 10 out of 10 record. I am so pumped to hopefully see these guys this year. Definitely, if they're playing Somewhere Back in Time and a Senjutsu mashup tour next year for the History Tour, I'm definitely going to see that shit. I don't care if tickets are $500 a pop. I will pay the money because, as most of you know, Somewhere in Time is probably, as a whole, my most relatable Maiden album. Everything about it I love. I love the artwork. I love the theme. It's Adrian's album. Adrian's my favorite guitarist in the band. I emulate my playing after him. So if they do that with Senjutsu, it's going to be a hell of a damn show, and I am so stoked. Please do that. Everybody, please follow, subscribe, hit that button, tell your friends about the podcast. I want to try to keep doing this as consistently as possible. But yeah, keep in touch. We'll see you next time. Enjoy your Maiden. Up the irons. This has been Joe Labriola from A Matter of Life in Maiden, the podcast of the Beast.